what made me get into music and start singing was music itself and what it did to me. Um, from an early age, I was listening to the music of Nat King Cole and thinking of the emotional effect that it had on me. It was nothing about the technical. It was nothing about the popular cool. It was about what the lyric and the sound and the timbre of the voice did to me. And I've always used music as a way to heal myself. And I found that when I open my mouth to sing, I not only heal myself, I can help heal or help open up um, other people emotionally. It's just something that I've had the ability to do, something that I worked on and crafted singing in church when I was a little boy. And my mother always encouraged me to sing, and that's what I've always done. I didn't know that I could have a career in it until the career just happened. I didn't. It was nothing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a singing career. It step by step, organically happened, and I feel lucky. I mean, there's people everywhere that do a lot of things, and they do a lot of things that they're, as we say, unhappy about. I mean, they work in industries that it's not something that they love. This is something that I've loved since the beginning of me, and so so to be making a living doing it is really a dream come true. Yeah.
And with all the success that you've got, you've had to work incredibly hard. Do you ever lose that kind of thrill of singing and making music? Does it ever get tiring?
No. What gets tiring is, heavy luggage and the wear down of the body from 2 months of travel and this kind of thing. That can get tiring. But even that, even when I have really tough days, like today. Today is, I started my morning waking up at 5:30 to get to a 6:30 television to, moving around all day to discuss and talk about this new record. Even at my hardest, I feel like I'm still not working hard as my mother did for a lot less reward. I'm doing a lot less than a lot of people that are working down on the street down there. And so I don't have the desire to complain about,
Well,
my work, but yes, it can get tough. But at the same time, I've kind of made I've carved out a niche for myself in finding maybe some of the difficulties in life and finding a way to put that to melody. Um, I don't shy away from the racism question. I don't shy away from, being fatherless as a young man. I don't shy away from, a broken heart or self-doubt or insecurity or vulnerability. These are things that sometimes people who are trying to make popular music, they'll stay away from those things. But I don't mind dealing with it, in a melody because I think that's me. That's me. And I think if there's anything that I'm proud about in my music is that I have been afforded the opportunity to say exactly what it is I want to say. And I think I can do that because I came in through the back door. You know, at 38, I'm not really, at 38, when I first made my first record, that's not really a time when you're supposed to make records and become a seller of millions of records. That's not really, they generally start at 19. They start grooming you when you're 16. I didn't do any of that.
Well, it's incredibly inspiring, and I think it made your songwriting even more authentic, and your voice as well. I mean, when did you realise that was there a point or a moment when you realised, God, my voice, there's just something that feels very good about it?
The rock group Korn.
Yeah,
they're from my hometown, and all of those guys went to my high school. And
I was not expecting that
yeah,
name to be brought up in this interview, but I'm a
yeah,
fan as well.
yeah,
So.
yeah. They were, you know, I knew them for, lifelong in Bakersfield. We went to all the same schools. But in high school, there was a talent show, and I was a junior in high school, maybe 15 years old, and I was up against them in the competition, and I won. And I was singing an a cappella song, and I had sang in church, and there had been response to my music, but I had never had this outpouring of respect and love and appreciation from my peers. There were like girls at this high school that I had gone to school with for, you know, I guess at that time it would have been maybe 8 or 10 years. I'd never talked to them, but that night after I sang, they came up and gave me a hug and told me how beautiful the music was. And there were, people that I didn't know that were just coming up to give me a hug, parents. And I realized that my voice and even just really was the power of music has the ability to open people up to where they want to share that kind of moment, that kind of emotion. And it was a powerful evening for me. Yeah. After my performance and after the show, I stood on stage for literally an hour giving people hugs one after another. It was surreal.
They must have
It
been
was
so
surreal.
moved. And I mean, you can understand why.
I was moved as well, but they gave me a standing ovation. I came off stage, and they wouldn't stop. They just kept clapping, and I had to come back out and wave again. It was just.
Was that a turning point into you wanting to pursue music more seriously?
It made me want to, keep singing and have that experience over again, but it didn't give me the idea. It didn't give me the idea that I could have a career, because I didn't know anybody who had a career.
Was that before you moved to New York?
That was before I moved to New York. I was in Bakersfield, California.
And which is where you're from?
Yeah.
And your years in New York, would you say that they were did they help you develop as a singer, or did you already feel like you're so natural?
No, it's absolutely helped me develop as a singer. I had this style, melding gospel and jazz and blues and soul, and really pulling from a diaspora of Black American music, and putting it all together in my jazz. I'd had that style, but I wasn't confident about it. I felt like, maybe it wasn't traditional enough. Maybe it hadn't been given a stamp of approval by anyone. I was just doing it. And being in New York and living in Brooklyn and performing in small clubs in Brooklyn and in Harlem, I was with the people. And it was the jazz heads in Brooklyn and New York that sanctioned and gave me confidence about what it was that I was doing. And they were like, yeah, you got something, that you're doing something different. You're doing, that's it. And so it was the jazz audience that maybe it's a lesser known and lesser respected, because these are little tiny, in a way, black jazz dive bars that has a clientele who may pay $3 or $5 for a beer that they may nurse all night long. It's not one of those clubs where you spend $100, $200 to go and watch jazz. And so it was that audience that said, yeah, we want to hear 1960 what? We want to hear Illusions. We want to hear that song you got that's called Be Good. We want to hear, so they gave me the confidence to say, yeah, let me write and sing. Jazz is built upon the tradition of taking the standard and utilizing the standard to show off your voice. But I felt myself as a jazz singer songwriter, and they sanctioned it for me. Yeah.
When did you first start writing? And is writing always the same for you? Or are you pulling, is there kind of a standard process where you sit down and
Oh, no,
write?
the process is just living life and pulling things from conversations, pulling things from a happening, going back into my childhood, going back into my history, pains, the highs and lows of life, deep, deep things that have moved me, um, the powerful watershed moments that happen in life, both life and death. The birth of my son was a powerful change in my writing. I still write to some effect on the death of my mother. I don't write about the death. I write about her and how much I miss her and what she taught me and really the most of the positive things that I got about being around her, this angel that I got, for the time that I did have her, or the 21 years that we were together. But your original question was,
Because it's very soulful and it's very authentic.
the writing process.
But in terms of like the musical aspect to it,
Mm-hmm.
is there a way that you record these ideas, or
It's a technical process. It is to writing music, but with everything, this is the way that I've always been. Even with I'm a chef and I love to bake. There's a science to baking. You have to have so much of this, so much of this, and so much of this, and so much of this. And so what I do is it's like I have the knowledge, but you try to put the knowledge in your back pocket and not create a soup or create a song from science. I create it from emotion.
which makes it so much better.
Right. And when you're making food, you make food based on the way it tastes. And so I
Not based on like the ingredients per se.
right,
Yeah.
not based on well, science says that if you put this much fat with this, but yes, that is true. But let me tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think when this is the process for many things that I do. I try to take it and try to make it as a relaxed process as possible, and because I feel like there's magic in cooking. I feel like there's magic in music, and I'm trying to grab magic out of the air and not grab, they say that, 133 beats per minute is the perfect. I don't want to hear that. I want to I want to write a song based on my heartbeat. You understand what I'm saying? I want the romance and the magic to still be in the process. And so I like to grab it out of the sky, out of nowhere,
Not be too technical.
out of a conversation, right? And I sing it. I sing melodies onto my phone. I write them down on a piece of paper. However I can grab it. I grab it when it happens, but I generally don't sit down and say I'm going to sit down and write a song.
So
I can't.
You don't try to force it.
I can do it. I can force it, but I don't
Don't
like
need
to
to.
force it. I like to grab it when it comes, and often it comes when I'm in motion. Fortunately, I travel around the world and probably have traversed some millions of miles now, and I'm moving a lot. So I'm constantly on planes, trains, and in automobiles, and that's where I write. That's where I write songs. Yeah,
And so for this new record, All Rise, and it's out in April.
yeah.
And just what you're saying about, songwriting being such a kind of emotional and therefore very authentic experience for you. It seems like, you put a lot of attention to detail into things. I was reading about this, your recording process for the new record.
Yeah.
And you're with your band recording and like you've tried like 8 different feels for a song and
Yeah.
you're moving on to the 9th, and that just sounds it just sounds brilliant to me as a music fan to have such a you take such a huge care over the process making a record.
This actually for this record, that's been our process. I've done it a little bit in the past, but this time I was like, let's take our time. I mean, let's there were in the past, yes, there's been, in the studio, time is money, and the process of taking your time can be costly, and it was a real, worry in the past, and it still is a concern. But I was like, this is important, and let's just take our time with it, and let's find the right feel, the right groove for what it is that I want to say. And so I'll play it one way, and you have to manage the emotions and the pride of the musicians that you're working with. They may feel like, oh, I played the perfect thing the last time. I was like, yes, it's still perfect. It was perfect, but let's try something beyond perfect. Let's try what it sounds like to play worse than you just played. You know what I mean? So, part of making music is managing the people that are around you, inspiring them to the story that you're trying to tell, allowing them to be themselves within the framework that you build. So there's a lot to making music than just putting the lines and the dots together. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to manage. So we took our time with this in this process, and we did try several different fields, and I think we came up with, for me, is a mix of feels and grooves and lines and dots, notes and loving, soaring, uh, uh, apexes of the voice that create a document that sounds like me. It's soul, it's gospel, it's blues, it's singer-songwriter, it's varied statements, varied political ideas and love ideas on the record. I think that's been kind of the mark of my career. I'm giving a little bit to those people who love old soul music. I'm giving a little bit to those people who like, who can hear the influence of Herbie Hancock on a singer and a piano player. That's there in a song like Real Truth. I think I'm trying to bring the diaspora of the music together. It's not just jazz, but it's completely jazz.
And your last two records have been so critically acclaimed and won Grammys. Do you feel any pressure with the new record, or is or is the pressure off in a sense because you've already achieved so much?
Well, I don't want to let down, fans or people who just want quality music. So, I don't want to let down myself. I am, I'm attracted to the challenge of trying to achieve good music, and yes, I want another Grammy, but if it doesn't come, that's not the only seal of approval that I need. I need, there's some marks that have to happen in my heart. I think I have to say something that I'll be proud for my son to listen to in 10 years.
It sounds like you put the care into it either way.
Yeah, yeah, either way. I mean, if that energy is going to come to me, if the record sales come, listen, when I made my first record, I had nothing to lose. I said, let me just make a document that is just me. And if it sells, cool. If it doesn't, then I'll have this thing that I can pull out at any gig that I have, and I'll sell it for $10 for the next 20 years, right? This is in my mind is what I was thinking. Let me just let me just have something so people can say, oh, there he was. He was here at one point in time. And so I never expected to have this career. I had no idea that there would be, somebody in the UK interested in talking to me or honoring me and talking to me about my music and my history of my mother and my child. But it's all happened, and there's nothing that I expected. But as it comes, I appreciate it. But I'll continue to be the person that I am and the singer that I am, the writer that I am, and hope that it strikes to the heart of people. And I hope that they, and now I was going to say, play it, but download it or stream it.
Well, I'm sure people will. I mean,
Swipe up, you know.
the first single, Revival, sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I know time is short, so I just want to finish by asking you, and we've asked everybody this. So this series is called Greatest of All Time. Who are your greatest artists of all time?
You know, my list is so long. You know, it tends to change from time to time, but the power and the energy and the life force of Donny Hathaway, the eloquence, and grace and uprightness of the brilliant Nat King Cole. You know, we just recently lost Aretha Franklin and Al Jarreau, and so I mean, there are real masters that if I do anything good, it comes off of the back of somebody else who showed me a direction. And so when I think of Donny Hathaway, Aretha Franklin, Nat King Cole, you know, those are my greatest. Those are my greatest.
They're all wonderful artists.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Gregory, for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you. Real pleasure.